At the beginning of our film, today we meet a man named Frank Perry. Whoever will be imprisoned in prison. At this time, Sarhan remains and is thinking about 1,000 things, and it will be between you and him that he is going. He does something he has never done before. After a while, he gets out of his bed. Enter the fashion, the most violent prisoner with him in the prison, that is Rita. On the second side, in the washing room, we find 4 prisoners are trying to escape from prison, and Pichello cover the swallow, and they make a hole in the ground. They escape from it and start to come down from it, one and the other. But Perry prefers to wait for his place a little bit, until his owner Frank comes. And the truth is, they were in agreement, just running away with Frank. But at the last moment, Pelago Lethe is the one who came instead of Frank, and instead of Perry, waiting for a little bit in the hole. But forget his energy. After a while, Frank finally arrives and we find him injured. So he takes the energy of Barry and he also goes down in the hole. But let's go back together before it. How many months is this? To understand, how did the topic start? And here we know that Frank live a normal life in prison like other prisoners. And his job is that he delivers laundry for prisoners. And he goes to wash it in the washing machine. And with time, Frank gets used to his life. This is because he took life. And he starts to accept the reality is that he loses hope that he will get out of this prison. That's why I don't have any choice. Other than that, he considers that prison, this is his world. That's why he spends most of his time. He's alone, in this long time. Frank is trying to avoid more violent in prison, who is Raza, and after a long time in prison, he starts to make great friends, and on Frank's day, he comes back. I put it after he finished his job, and he finds his colleague in the world who does not need him. Because his sentence has ended, he is finished and he is ready to return home. On the other side, the rest, prisoners stay standing. Watch the newcomers who are entering after you put them antibacterial powder. Other than that too, prisoners do not wear all their demolition. The most happy person with this news is Tony, Retta's brother. The one who groceries is very much in prison. We see him rejoicing when he finds new people to control them. And he also enjoys while he is Burkham on them. And then his eye comes to one named Lacey. After a while, all prisoners are followed by their homes. Lacey remains Frank's new classmate in fashion. But Frank doesn't care strong. We want to see it. Why isn't he trying to talk to Frank? Well, can Frank be on the show? And at night, Frank Bayele is an answer. And we know that his grocery 4 years ago I sold answers to his family in the hope that one day, a girl responds to his messages. But the length of the last 14 years, which is the answer of one of them. And even the answer that came to today, it will be from his wife. What do you say about him is that his daughter has been hospitalized because she took a dose. Mukhaddarat ziyada. You can die at any moment. And Frank, when he hears this, he feels that his life has turned around as it is, because someone loves him the most in his life can die. And after this news, Frank feels that he is being cut off from his atmosphere. That's why he goes to the prison church. And when the guard, he sees his condition, the door opens him even though it's late. And then Frank goes to confess. He takes the answer with him and reads it. And he's crying, and my time feels that he wants to meet his daughter with any wish. And the second day he washes the clothes, Frank, his eye comes to the refinery. The iron in the back of the washing machine. He looks up and finds iron pipes. And this discovery makes him a hellish idea. After a while, Frank meets Brady. Why is the closest owner? Ask him if the air vents in this machine are connected. Prison system or not. And Brody, when he hears this from his owner, he is surprised. But then Frank Barella, the answer is his wife. And after what they read, Frank says he wants to get out of prison. In any way, as soon as possible. And because of this, he needs help, of course. This is because Brody has great experience in tunneling. Tunnel before that under prison. After that, Brody says he agrees to help him. Because he also took life in this prison. And how many days later? Frank meets a young man who plays boxing named Lenny. Of course he must be wearing a cat. Because Urina's bay and tri muscles. At this time he was supposed to be out. But Frank, who knew his old colleague that Lenny's release from prison was cancelled. And this is the one who made him want revenge in any way. And Frank decides to take advantage of this issue. So he goes to say to Lenny on his plan and beige him. So that I know that Lenny has experience in using tools. This can be very useful. In the first, Lenny would be very hesitant. Just after he thinks a little bit,
he agrees along.
And then Frank makes a meeting with his 2 friends. So that they discuss the details of the plan and they work themselves to play Domina and Balago. There is nothing in front of them but a way. But they escape with it, and what is it through the washing machine? Just to get them there, they need to run through 3 security doors. But Frank Bacon has another way. Also, and we know that when he will confess in Mesa, I take it to his mind that the walls of this environment are very light. And according to his words, they understand. They can break the walls of the confession bowl and enter the washing bowl. From there, they escape through the vents. But the one before they do all this, they need to cut the plate. The iron that you will deliver to the vents. And on this day, the first time the prison lights turn off. In Bibdo, he worked and cut pipes. The iron that is in its bed and connects it to the screwdriver that you will use to cut iron plate. On the second side, Frank is going to meet the biggest prisoner with the tuna. And Frank challenges him to a boxing match. On behalf of Lanny, on the second side, Frank's plan and his friends are still running out. And my time, they will know their new path well. What is that they enter through openings? Kaya for the filter system, and from there it will move. Until they reach the lake. And what is supposed to be after they prepare it? They will find a Qatar station. Freedom will begin. But they also know that there is a pilot. 655 in the ways of the train stay. Even if the enemy in time. Himoto all of them, and after they discuss the whole plan, they decide to get out of prison. This is after 3 days, but I don't know that Tony is standing watching them from above, and those who confuse them know that they intend to have a great calamity. On this day, all prisoners gather in the canteen to watch the match between Totten and Lenny. And it will be Payne what is strong and starts to hit. Lenny is very rigid, and what is the first opportunity to see? Lenny hits him with a rigid blow in his face, and this makes his ear fall from his trumpet. Corky takes it and leaves it with him before the guards come. And then it will arrive for the This is the pipe that he did today, the one who passed. And the second Tony vessel Frank a few questions about his plan while they were in the bathroom, and when Frank doesn't respond to him, he says, "Leave a door. It's open." They promise that he will come to him. Second day, and when Frank says this to his friends, they worry a little, because they know that even if they want to say something, they will not be able because he remains the brother of Rita. But they also know that if they don't do anything, their whole plan is going out. That's why Frank agrees. With them, they enter with them, another man on the team, and this man remains. And what we know is that one of the prisoners is doing drugs in a quantity, small quantities for prisoners, and the truth is he's doing this job with the government, because the quantities of drugs are decreasing, and prisoners relieve addiction. And the second day Frank presents this show to Batista, to help them. Let Tony guide in any way. In return, Frank, he will get him out of prison, and Batista the first time he hears this agrees and puts down a plan, to leave Tony Yehda forever, and see it, then he works a certain type of drug. Mix it with poison and take these drugs from the lab. And her hands to Frank, and at night Frank Bacon is nervous and Pestany Tony comes out. And he takes drugs. Batista is with him because when he comes to meet him, Frank shuts him up. Drugs D. Unfortunately, Tony is not alone, and he brings his partner and his replacement with him. As we know, Tony bikun nawi lelisi ala shar. He takes advantage of this opportunity and sits on it. But I don't want to be like the rest of the prisoners who pisk it. Dahl and Bimsk Tony needs it, literally hit. And the first thing that accompanied Tony Bischoff, he runs away from his fear. Just don't leave the bag of drugs and take it with him. On the second side, Tony hits so rigid that he doesn't want to. He is able to walk and fall on stairs. The first time he gets out of the cell and dies. Rita is the first time he hears the news of his brother's death. He asks to meet Frank in his cell, and on the second side, Lacey is in solitary confinement after this incident. And of course everyone knows that Tony, I kill because of what he sells. But no one can say anything. In front of everyone, and my time will only be in one witness. Who is Frank in this? Because Tony Bacon's partner, he started taking drugs at the time he died. That's why Rita wants to hear what happened from Frank. And knows from him his brother Matt how, so he asks to talk to him in his cell. Unfortunately, Frank and his colleague Bacono have a plan to escape from prison on this day, and they will be in the implementation too. At this time, people who are imprisoned in different places in prison will remain, start a job. On the second side, Frank knows that his wife is coming to visit him. She says their daughter died in the hospital in the morning. Of course, Frank first hears this. He collapses and feels that he has no reason to leave prison. Because he was doing all this to meet his daughter. And after he thinks a little bit, Frank pint in the hole he made in the laundry late. And we will reach here to the scene that we saw at the beginning, the end of the movie and the day the prisoner's escape will come. And the first time they reach the air vents, Lenny, the pipe he treated comes out and begins to cut the iron tin. And the first time they cut it, they put the drainage system in front of them. And my time, they crawl in these pipes until they reach the lake. The one next to the prison, and after they face many difficulties. Finally, they reach the end. And here they know that the end of the corridor closed carefully. Of course, it is impossible to complete this. It means the whole plan, no blame failed. And Lenny would be pissed off by Lacey. And he spits him in the precaution and stays. He will hit him with the box, but Lacey is away, and the blow comes in precaution. And then the precaution will break. And the first thing they see is they understand that this precaution was built from very early. So they start to break it. After they sit down, they mess up and break in it. They make a big hole in precaution so that they can run from it, and Brody, the one who has experience in these needs, will be the most, and that's why he decides he enters the pit and prepares the road in front of him for the rest. And the first time he enters, he sits digging faster, but unfortunately after a while, I find mud that came down on it and is buried under it. And Frank sits digging with his hand to get his friend out of there. And after the young people dig, they all hold Brady's hand at last. But Pelago is unconscious. And my time is moving, and they are Shailene Brady on their back. After they wait a little while, they arrive at an empty Qatar station. This means that they are walking on the right path, and Lacey is also trying to help Frank at the time because his legs are bleeding. But despite this, he asks everyone that they prefer to walk. At this moment, they hear the sound of dogs. This means that the police knew that they ran away and started on them. And my time, the topic for them remains a life or death. They have to leave Brody and go out and run, and then they will find water in front of them. But it is not a strong guta, so they will float in it. But Lenny doesn't know how to float. And that's why, topic, it will be very difficult for him. Despite all these problems, they get out of the water and reach the towing station. They arrive at the iron bars, as they were planned. Just one time, Batista's legs get stuck between the bars. No, above all, too. The diameter comes and gets close to them quickly. Corky is trying to save and prefers to help. Until the end of the time, and Frank and Lacey, but the one who is away from the front of the country at the last minute. And then the two go out of the bars area and reach a station. The diameter and the two will say goodbye to each other for the last time, and then they change their demolition, and we see Frank looking at the stairs that you will take for the streets of London's salvation. But you see what changed his opinion at the last moment and let him escape from prison. The truth is that sometime was just an after. Hope is salvation. He asked Lacey to run away instead, and then Lacey told everything they and the men agreed on. He told him to get out of here as soon as possible. Hence the stay. The story started. After that, Frank went to Oareta, and the first time he entered, he sat running and jerking because of his friends. They buy time to escape. And here, Frank Calirita is very fanatical. He hit him, and then the guards came to close the wound. After that, he lost consciousness, and Frank imagined that he went after his friends and ran away with them. Just the truth is, Dub gained time for his friends to escape them. He risked his life. In the last scene, Frank dreams he met his daughter on the streets of London. And she still lives. Until here events end. Our movie today, wait for me to stay in new videos and summaries. Hello?